by way of an introduction, my name is Bob Evans, and along with my colleague Jack Spohr, we'll be your guides for today's session, and we're delighted to be joined by Anne-Marie Clark and Martin Trinder of Lennon Properties. So a brief run through the agenda for today. We're expecting the webinar to last no longer than about 3/4 of an hour, and we appreciate that your time is really precious, so that's why we're trying to keep it brief. There will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end, but please feel free to post them in the chat box or the Q&A as we go through. We're going to start with a brief introduction, followed by an interview with Anne-Marie and Martin. Then we're going to follow on with a session about making the most of the opportunities out there, and a bit about the Rl Business Accelerator, and wrapping up with a bit of a summary. We'll start with a thought for the day. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is now. There's always a chance to seize the day, or carpe diem. So, yeah. So what are we here for today? The purpose of today's session is really to review where we've all been, particularly over the last 18 months or so, and what lies ahead, and how you can best take advantage of the opportunities out there. Jack and I are full-time business advisors here at Robson Naylor, and one of the sectors that we specialise in is estate agency. And we're proud to be helping estate agents throughout the UK, not just with their compliance accounting, but also with management information and advice geared towards achieving both business and personal goals. So what of recent times? When the UK was first plunged into lockdown, it's safe to say that confusion was the leading emotion for many. However, estate agents across the country achieved a speedy response to the instructions for high street shops to close their doors, and for the most part adapted well to working remotely. In the early stages of the pandemic, remote viewings quickly became popular. And while the metrics showed a sudden drop-off in viewings at the very start of lockdown, virtual and remote viewings brought this number back up to pre-COVID levels within just a few weeks. Customers appeared surprisingly comfortable with instructing agents to put houses on the market remotely. And this led many to champion the remote viewings as a huge success, but it was found that while there was a huge degree of uptake in people giving verbal intent to buy during virtual viewings, this was offset by high levels of withdrawals when they saw the property in person. Now, the sector's willingness to adapt was also aided by the government's introduction of the SDLT holiday, which led to a massive uptick in activity. And although the holiday has ceased at the end of last month, demand remains high. And I think it's fair to say that supply is more of an issue now. The pandemic has also frustrated the sector due to the limitations placed upon conveyancing, which has slowed to a snail's pace and is yet to fully recover. The challenge as we see it is for estate agents to capitalize on the opportunities available from improved activity levels and resulting profitability, and not to take the current market for granted, but to use some of the efficiencies gained through the experience of recent times and plan accordingly for the future. But I think that's enough waffle from me. Let's hear from the experts, Anne-Marie and Martin from Lennon Properties. So brief bio here. Anne-Marie joined the estate agency sector in 1995 as an apprentice business administrator and worked her way up to branch manager valuer for an independent estate agent by the age of just 19 years old. And it was always her ambition to open her own estate agency lettings business. In 2015, she partnered with entrepreneur Martin Trinder to establish Lennon Properties, and she became managing director in 2017. So if I could ask you both to tell us just a little bit about Lennon Properties, like when the business was formed and how many branches there are, etc. And over to you guys.
Yes, yeah, so the business was originally formed in 2015. Obviously, we started off with a small branch in Blythe, and we quickly grew to open a new premises in Blythe, a larger office, property management centre, and we've currently got 2 physical branches at the moment, and we also have some virtual consultants who work with us as well.
Brilliant. So I know that the hybrid estate agency model is one you work with. And why does that work so well for you?
So when we originally formed Lennon Properties, obviously there was quite a lot of competition already in the area. predominantly corporates and large independents. There was a big shift at the time. There was a lot of online estate agents sort of coming into the marketplace, a lot of call centre agents, and we believed that there was a gap in the market for something that was slightly a little bit different, but in the middle, which is where the idea for the hybrid agency came from. For me, having worked in the sector for a long time, a lot of the time when the clients wanted to speak to you, weren't available. The office was closed, and people wanted you to be available when it was convenient for them. So we came up with the idea of hybrid estate agency operating 7 days a week, so that it was very much more customer oriented. We've got the portal as well, which allows them to access their viewing feedback, their and they can offer constructive feedback on how they would like that to be changed. So it was given some of the control back to the client, so that they had much more say and much more control over how we did business with them.
That's really brilliant. Yeah. So just to throw a bit of a curveball in, so how do you find competition from the likes of Purple Bricks and these sort of flat fee types? I mean, as I understand it, they're going to charge you one way or another, aren't they? Whether they complete the deal or not.
Yeah, so I think obviously with Purple Bricks, it was very much a large media campaign, TV adverts and things like that. And there was the commissary sort of thing that they pushed. But the way that we dealt with that was we made people very aware at the outset that they were going to be entered into a credit agreement with that agent, and that they were going to ultimately get a bill whether they sold the property or not, and that we were working purely on results, so that if we didn't sell the property, we wouldn't make a penny. So I think if once people were aware of that, they didn't take that route, because they knew that that's what they were getting. So a lot of the time it was educating the client early on, and obviously finding out who you were up against as well when you were going to do the valuation, so that you knew that they were considering them as a competitor. So we could obviously tell them what was different about our service to what they were offering.
Yeah, I think it's a much less personal service, isn't it, that they're offering?
Yeah, definitely.
So without wishing to give away too many company secrets, what does the future look like for Lennon Properties? Is it further growth?
Yeah, so we would like to continue to grow. Obviously, we're looking to expand into different areas. We're largely sort of northeast at the moment. We've just started to grow into more South Tyneside in Sunderland, which we're doing pretty much on a virtual basis at the moment. Obviously, we haven't ruled out the possibility of acquisitions with other agents. There's other agents that are looking to obviously get out of the industry or possibly partner up with another company. So they're all things that we're looking at the moment.
Exciting times. So today's webinar is all about the business advice that Robson Laidler provides to estate agents throughout the UK. Can you tell us a little bit about how the firm has helped Lennon Properties on your journey so far? And that could be, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I think for me, Bob, was basically they were already the accountants who look after my other business interests, and obviously I sat down at a very early point with the team at Robson Laidler and looked at, and obviously explained that I was opening an estate agent along with Anne-Marie, and obviously the advice we got from there obviously really helped us in the way we were going to do things, the way we were planning things, in the way we were going forward with things. Because the business grew at probably a larger pace than that we initially anticipated, obviously due to the hard work of obviously Anne-Marie and the other staff that we have working for the company. We sort of changed routes, but that was down really with the advice that we got from Robson Laidler. Some of it was to protect, some of it was also look at other opportunities, and obviously making sure collectively that the right decisions were made, and obviously puts us in a lot more clearer. So we understand, it's not a case of what we can and can't do, but we understand a lot more about where we are at the current time, rather than doing the wrong decision. Forward planning, stuff like that, which so there's nothing going to come in to bite you, as I say, at the back, so that hats off to the team there, who obviously made things a lot more easier. And we can sort of get to the decisions a lot quicker now.
Yeah.
From doing that, because we have all of that planning in place already, or we're working on the next project now, and obviously sitting down with you guys within the team to do that.
That's great. Yeah, so I know we've got you've got dedicated team members from our end looking after you. I think that Dan is looking after you. Sorry, I'll just let somebody else in the room. So yeah, so I hope that works out well for you, because I know we try to take a real interest in our clients. So I think that's certainly true of Dan in his case. So yeah, just I'd like to thank you both. I really appreciate you sharing your insights with us. If we move on to how we can help. Thought it might be useful to show a little bit about our approach to helping. Victor, do you think you could possibly put yourself on mute for us? Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, so we just thought we'd show you a little bit about our approach to helping estate agency, the sector. I don't want to spend too long on this, but this is just to give you a flavour, a quick whiz through a management report drawn up for a fictional client imaginatively called Agency Estates Limited, with the amazing tagline of "We sell houses." And obviously there's a contents page, which is very exciting. But here we get into some of the more important stuff, which is the executive summary, and it allows us to highlight a few significant aspects of the management pack and even incorporate a cheesy image or two if appropriate. You can see here on the right-hand side that points 2 and 3 are looking into the short and medium-term strategy for the business, and also the short-term tax planning. And these points would either develop with ongoing conversations or vary according to circumstance. The next slide is a summary profit and loss analysis, comparing the year to date with the previous year, and also showing the most recent 4 months results, as well as incorporating budgets on the right-hand side of the page to project an outturn for the financial year end. Now, this is a sort of graphical presentation of the revenue, net profit, and operating expenses. As often it's easier to spot trends visually rather than just through the pure numbers. Now we can, if necessary, if required, also show the granular detail of the profit and loss account. Some people like that, some people think it's a bit too detailed. And the balance sheet here, it again compares, offers relevant comparisons, but also in the right-hand side, again, we've got monitors for capital expenditure and debt, if there is any within the business. And again, these things can all be tailored to the individual client and what they require. Again, there's a graphical representation of the balance sheets. On the left, you can see the whole balance sheet broken down into a donut there. And the equity trend and liquidity monitor for the business, which I won't go into the detail and meaning of that, but that could all be explained and also incorporated within the executive summary at the start as well. So we also have a graphical representation of the cash movements, both for the year to date and for the month. So you can see the money coming in and where it's all gone within the business. So quite an important one, this, because it allows us to agree targets with the client and to monitor how they're performing against individual target areas. So you can see cash, profit, etc. on that chart there. And it allows us to bring some accountability into the picture, and it's a powerful way of focusing attention on achievable goals. So here's a chart gallery. Again, the actual selection of these charts is agreed with the client in order to focus on those areas that are of importance to them. And finally, although being accountants puts Robson Laidler in a privileged position of having access to the numbers and therefore to advise accordingly, we don't think that it's necessarily enough, and that a management report can also go beyond the financials and look into other meaningful metrics. So metrics that are helpful to running and improving a business's performance. So here are just a few options of the type of information we could look into. I mean, it's almost limitless, the type of metrics you could decide to look into. There are clearly many alternatives, but the combination of reporting on financial and non-financial is massively powerful. We want to be seen by our clients as part of their team. And so we take a genuine interest in looking at any aspect of their business where we believe we can make a difference in helping them to achieve their goals. But I think that's probably enough from me. And I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Jack, who will explain a little bit more about the RL Business Accelerator.
Thanks very much, Bob. Yes, so in terms of what the Business Accelerator is, as Bob has already said, that we very much like to take an interest in our clients, and accountants are traditionally looking at the numbers, but we kind of want to, as a group, Bob and I, the kind of the figureheads of it, really are kind of pushing for getting beyond the numbers and really talking about what are the problems within your business and how can we help you fix them, use some of our expertise to your benefit. And Bob, I think, kind of demonstrated how a lot of the work that we would do would be presented in terms of, he's alluded to the idea of targets and strategies. But some of you may be thinking, well, how the hell do I get to a point where I can form some kind of coherent strategy? So I just kind of want to run you through a few kind of tools and exercises, and I suppose service lines that we use with some of our clients, which have been particularly popular with some of our existing estate agent clients. So the first one here we can see is the business health check. And this is sort of the middle ground of kind of how much detail we really dive into with a client. And essentially, what the business health check involves is a client using a couple of the diagnostics that we have. We have these specialist online diagnostics that we use that monitor a couple of things. The first one we use is something called the Gross Profit Solution diagnostic, and this essentially measures your business against 10 key success factors. And these are generally around people, systems, implementation, strategy, profit, sales, marketing, leadership, technology. It kind of takes all of those key areas of any kind of successful business and measures you against and benchmarks you against other clients that we have at Robson Laidler. So essentially you get an idea of where your business is at the moment and how it's scoring, in areas of strengths and areas of weaknesses. And then the second diagnostic we use is something called the Success Change tool. That Success Change tool relates to the how willing and how able you are to implement change within your business based on, again, based off a 5-minute, 10-minute kind of questionnaire that will get you to fill in. And off the back of that, we essentially sit down and we debrief, and we come up with a very high-level strategic plan and working on how you can improve your areas of strength and how you can develop the areas of weakness. And that's all done within a 90-minute session that we sit down with the client and do that. If you want to drill down into a bit more detail, then we have the other tool that we use is called the one-page plan. And this essentially it says what it is. It's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a business plan that we managed to condense down into a one-page plan. And this very much works off a very fundamental principle of how we do all of our advisory work in the Business Accelerator team, is using this philosophy of now, where, how, where you need to understand where you are at the moment, where you want to be, and why understanding the gap between the two is where you can really focus your energy and start focusing on key strategic areas of importance and working on, and really focusing down on those key areas and drilling down into some granular detail. So we've got a few tools that we use within that one-page planning session. It's quite an intensive exercise. It's generally kind of over a 4-hour period. As I said, we really want to get down into the detail and understand and get you to really think about your business, and it provides a really good framework. We've had experience, using it with clients. We use it internally, kind of on a departmental level and on an individual level, and it really kind of prompts people to really think about, their businesses or themselves personally. So as I said, that's kind of a 4-hour process, and we can sit down and work our way through that. The final tool that we generally use is the killer coffee. And this is generally what we use. It's a very light touch exercise. It's something that we do with a lot of our prospects. We love the concept of kind of shaking up how a general first meeting is. A lot of people expect a conversation with an accountant is that let's understand what you need in terms of service line. This is the price it's going to be. Do you want to work with us? Thank you very much. But we want to take a slightly different approach and actually add value from the get-go and go, so what are the problems within your business? What's kind of stopping you from growing? And just kind of doing a very quick half-an-hour exercise where you can come out with some action points as a result of it and go, wow, fantastic. You know, that I really want to work with these accountants because they get me. So yeah, that's just kind of 3 very basic examples of you know, some of the tools that we use with our clients. And this goes without saying that we've also do a lot of work with estate agent clients in terms of modelling and forecasting. A lot of them are keen to understand where that cash flow is going to look like on a short and medium term basis, and we've done a lot of work trying to develop specific forecasts for our estate agent clients. And also we're doing quite a lot of work with dashboards. Bob was talking about before, when not a lot of people like to drill down into the detail of, you know, what individual line items come up to in their profit and loss account. They just want to know, how much money am I making, how much money have I got in the bank, and how long can I keep running a business like this, and how much do I need to bring through the door in order to keep the wolves from the door. And that's a lot, you know, that's a very popular service line that we're offering to clients, and especially within the estate agency kind of space. So in terms of that, was everything I wanted to talk about in terms of the different tools. In terms of the next step, just to kind of give you some indications of some of the prices we're charging. As I said, the killer coffee is generally a free of charge service that we offer to all of our prospects, you know, either as part of their initial meeting talking about compliance, or we can bring it all together as kind of one meeting. If anyone's interested in terms of a business health check, that's, as I said, a 90-minute session, which we're charging £450 plus VAT for. And similarly, the one-page plan, which is generally a 4-hour session, we're charging £850 plus VAT. We appreciate that we haven't shown a huge amount of capability. If you wanted to come in and do these health checks and one-page plans, and you're obviously taking our word for it, saying that they're fantastic. So we obviously offer a guarantee with both of those service lines that if you don't feel like you've got any benefit at the end of it, then we won't charge you. And you can see that all of our contact details are available there. Obviously, we've got our email address at ba@roxham-laidler.co.uk, and then also there's our direct dial number there as well for our reception. In terms of kind of pulling this all together before the Q&A, as part of our membership to the B1G1, which is an initiative set up by the UN, where one of our values is certainly giving back to the community, both in terms of locally and internationally. As a result of being as part of this initiative, anyone that has attended today will be offering 6 days access to e-learning for children in India. So at the very least, you've done something beneficial to the wider by sitting through our ramblings. So I think that's everything. The last thing to do is to field any questions. I don't know if any have been popped up on the chat while I've been nattering away. If not, feel free to unmute yourself or ping something down in the chat.
I think we do have a question coming through. I don't know whether you want to have a think about this one, Jack. So it's, how would I go about acquiring a new business or growing my existing small estate agency business rather?
Acquiring one. In terms of, and this, it's obviously, it is dependent on individual circumstances, I would say, because obviously not every single business is the same, and I'd be very reluctant to give a generic answer, but it's something that we certainly...
It is quite a broad one, isn't it?
we take the time out to really understand kind of, as I said, the now, where, how of things, kind of where are you at the moment, what is cash flow like at the moment, are you in a position to buy someone? you know, and the where in terms of, is this a one-off acquisition? Is this part of a wider plan to expand across the Northeast, like Lennon are at the moment? Is there, I think that, the most important thing is to kind of build out the now and the where, and that's only when the how comes in terms of how do we go about this? What's the best way of acquiring a business? What's the best kind of expansion methods based on what our, you know, strengths are to you, and what do we want to be building on?
I think you're absolutely right. You go back to first principles and determine whether it's the right move for the client in the first place, but also beyond that, if it is to be proceeded with, then we'd be looking to help with any due diligence, establishing that the target is actually a valuable proposition, and certainly priced right as well.
Definitely. I mean, I know you've been certainly helping, not necessarily estate agent clients, but other clients, you know, with acquisitions, and it's not a straightforward one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
It's not, and I know that elsewhere and within our organisation, we've looked at acquisitions for people, and ultimately they haven't gone ahead, and that's partly down to our advice. So, yeah, don't have any other questions at the moment, unless anybody in the room wants to ask one. So I think we are a little bit ahead of time, but let's say thank you very much for attending. It's been really helpful from my side, and I hope it has been helpful to you for your time. So thank you very much.